Hi there fabric jugglers, it's Babs here from Fiery Phoenix, and today I'm going to be talking to you about quilting bees and in particular an online quilting bee. So what's the difference between a sewing bee, a quilting bee and an online version? Now most people in the UK particularly have been made more aware of a sewing bee through the Great British Sewing Bee television series, which has been running for a few years now. A sewing bee traditionally is when a group of women, normally women, although these days not so much, but generally women would gather together to work on creating a lot of a single small item. If they were working to create balaclavas, scarves, shirts for soldiers, historically, the most famous of which was run by the Queen Mother during the Second World War, and then nowadays it's more of a social event, so you'll have groups of sewers coming together, and they'll still be working on individual projects, although they probably won't all be making the same item many times, but there's still lots of individual small projects that are being worked on, whereas a quilting bee, as against a sewing bee, a quilting bee is very specifically to create one large item. So you have many people working on one single item. It's a prime example of many hands make light work. So it's the female equivalent historically of a barn raising. So all the men in the village would get together to raise a barn. All the men in the village would get together to raise a barn. We're talking hundreds of years ago. And the women would do the same, except this time it would be for a quilt. So if there was a wedding or a special event or winter was coming up, then the women would gather together and they would all work to create a quilt. They'd either create individual patches, which would then all be sewn together, or they would all work on physically quilting 3 layers of fabric together to create a quilt in a much faster amount of time than it would take to have just one person sitting there trying to create the quilt top and then quilting it. And there'd be lovely social events, there'd be gathering, children would be running around, all sorts of fun stuff, and quite possibly some bitching and stitching would be going on as well. Not much has changed on that front, but it's still a very sociable event. It's harder these days for people to get together to take part in a quilting bee. They do still take place. There are still groups of women who gather together. There's probably some tea and coffee and chocolate hobnobs involved, but they will then continue this process of a quilting bee. However, for those of us who aren't in that the luxurious situation of being able to attend an all-day quilting bee in person, there is now an online version, and I'm very excited because I've just joined 2 hives in an online quilting bee. It's going to be a 12-month process, so there are 12 people in each hive. Every month you will create 1 patch and then send that patch off to the queen bee for the month. Now, as I say, I'm in 2 different hives in this particular quilting bee, and in one of them this month I've been asked to create a 12-inch patch, which is a stamp patch. So lots and lots of little squares of the colours that the queen bee has chosen. And in my other hive, I get to be queen bee this month, which is quite exciting. So I'm going to be sending out my instructions, giving my colour schemes to the other 11 members of the hive. And in theory, they will this month then create me a lovely collection of patches. They will then post them out to me, and I can then build that into a quilt. And then for the next 12 months, I will be doing the same thing for the other 11 members of the hive. And then by the end of it, we should all have a new quilt. It's really quite an exciting process. I'm going to be vlogging about what happens while I'm queen bee, what happens with the instructions that I'm given and how I interpret them for the other patches that I'm going to be working on. So hopefully you're going to enjoy following along with that series of vlogs, and it would be great if you were inspired to start your own online quilting bee, and I'd love to see any information about quilting bees that you've been in part of, whether that be online or in the real world. And if you're going to be coming along, which I hope you will for this series, please give the video a thumbs up, please like and share, and it would be great if you subscribe, because then you're always going to be kept up to date with the latest videos that I release. But for now, I think that's enough blathering, and I've got quite a lot of stitching and organising to do, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.